Well, I'm so glad that you could make it tonight. We do, normally we have a couple of other students that are returning that will hopefully return again this year. The evening time was to hopefully open it up to more people because, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, a lot of the peninsula is available, but, some of us are still really active during those times. So welcome. Just so you know, I am live streaming our class tonight on YouTube, and you'll have access to it if you want to see it afterwards and go back. But normally we don't record the presentations of the paid classes throughout the year, and I didn't actually present any of the classes online last year. So it's kind of just for us. But don't feel nervous about asking questions along the way or stopping me as we go. We want this to be as interactive as possible, especially with having a nice small group here. We can really dig in and hopefully answer any questions that you might have as we go through the topic. So, for those of you that haven't attended any of the classes before, I am Lynn, but I'm also known as the Modem Lisa. That's been my business name since 1999. But I didn't actually carry the business all the way through. I took a 25-year dip into the corporate IT world because you know what? At 17, when I started the business, I was really excited. I loved designing web pages. I loved helping people. But I didn't like running a business at 17, it turned out. So when I graduated high school, since I had worked in technology for my high school, I went to another school system and worked for a school system for a couple years before wiggling my way through so many different areas of technology. It kind of blows my mind a little bit, thinking back on that career. But, when I first started using the internet, it was in 1993. I was 11 years old, and AOL was just booming, and I felt like it was me and Steve Case alone sitting there on AOL having a great time, It was really easy to tell what was real and what was fake because most everything was real. People were interested in putting stuff out. You could tell what a joke was. It was easy. But we don't live in that world anymore. Things have changed a lot, not only with the internet, but just in our culture and how we approach the sharing of information. So the things that we go through today are going to be very focused on social media, what we find online, how to make sense of some of the things that we're seeing in the world today. But there's a lot out there, and I can't promise you that we will cover the full breadth of everything. So real quick, how many of you get your news from social media?
You ask me to trust the news that we get from social media?
Would you consider it your primary source, like where you first find out about things? How about, have you ever spotted something on Facebook or other social media that was just too good to be true? Miracle cures, yeah, I think we've all seen them at this point. Who's got that friend or family member that's always sending you articles online to look at? So we're all kind of facing these similar things. We're getting our news from a different place than we were just 3-5 years ago. No one, if you asked someone even 5 years ago, oh, do you get your news on Facebook? The answer probably would have been no. But what's happened is now it's become so easily accessible that it's become a platform for those bigger news outlets to just shoot things out faster, get it to more people, get people to share it. How hard was it to go pick up the newspaper at the store and then get that to 50 of your friends really quick when you had they wrote an article about me in the newspaper. It could be months before your whole family found out. Now, minutes. This is a video that I wanted to show real quick. Have any of you seen this picture before? It's actually been used several times. There was not really a shark swimming in this water. This was for Hurricane Harvey, but this was used for Ian. It was used during Rita. There's like 6 different hurricanes that people reposted this at. Look, there's shark on the street, highway shark. And many people believed it was true. Now this, I actually had a friend on Facebook share this post with me, not this YouTube video, but she put up this post and she said, this breaks my heart to see Celine Dion like this. This is so tragic. And it was because the post, I'm just gonna mute this because I think it's just sound. But the post that she had postings on the bottom, these are Celine Dion's 3 sons helping her at a wedding. Now, it just so happened that 2 nights before, I had watched the documentary on Celine Dion, and I knew that not only was that not her, but those were not her sons, because her sons were teenagers. They were not adult men. So I was instantly able to tell her, I'm sorry, this is not Celine Dion, and the post that you're trying to share with everybody is not valid. And she had already shared it on her Facebook page and shared it, around to all of her friends. Sorry, I didn't mean to shut down the presentation there. It always wants to do that to me. Yeah, it's difficult. I think because I've been in the trenches of misinformation so long, in the darker parts of the internet, let's say, so long, that I've always had that. Like, I almost never believe what I read until I can verify it in multiple ways. It's that, uh, suspicious mind. We don't have just a trusting mind. But I live with someone who's like immensely trusting. She believes everything. So I have like this contrast. Like, but for those of us that remember what a corded device looked like this was, that's how misinformation works, like the game telephone. Once one person believes that misinformation, they spread it to someone, and they spread it to someone, and before you know it, it's become common knowledge. And it takes a long time to reverse misinformation. Once people really believe something to be true, the time it takes to reverse that is more than 3 times as long as it took for them to just accept that initial information. So what we want to do is be that digital detective that is looking at things with that eye that's saying, is this true or not, before we share it with other people. We are that ability to stop misinformation at its source if we don't spread it around, if we're not calling on the telephone. So this is how much our news consumption has changed over the years. if we look over here, this infographic is on internet use, which, I said back in 1992 is when I started using the internet. So I was kind of early on that. And now by 2014, this infographic being older we were 87%. We're close to 90, maybe even beyond that at this point. Almost everyone has access to the internet. And then, and this one ends in 2010, so you know it's gotten worse. Our use of newspapers, actual physical newspapers, has dropped dramatically. So we went from a culture that had been consuming information on newspapers for over 100 years to only in the last 30 or 40 years having digital news provided to us. And that has just changed not only the way we consume, but how we feel about it. It's less permanent if it's on the internet. Things that are in print feel more real to us than we tend to feel about things on the computer. And it's sort of evolved into that desire to make fake news. Because, if you wanted to say, make up something funny or make up something untrue about someone else, it's kind of hard to then get it published in the newspaper. But I remember when I was a teenager, I had a friend, we call it frenemies, who within minutes was able to throw up a website that was joking about her best friend Lynn, and the picture is her dog, Sadie, instead of me. And that was one of my first internet trolling experiences, when I had a friend make a website all about me. And then there's social media. So we shifted to the internet, and then we shifted to social media. And these are more updated infographics. So if we look at now, social media is the main gateway, the main way that people get their news, 30%. And this little smaller part here is that 77% of respondents use the internet for their news. So we have very little population not using it online. So it's the number one source by far. But then social media has slowly crept up to being the most used news platform on the internet. And then this wonderful infographic shows you how much we feel it's difficult to trust the news that we get through these different social media platforms. And if you look, we get a little higher down here, but almost half of what we're seeing in general, we don't believe anyway. So, how do we find these things? Well, it's a new world. We need some new skills. We need to learn how to be the digital detectives by using different methods like think. So, when you look at something, does it seem true? Does it seem helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Now, we're not asking if we feel inspired by something necessarily. I think understanding, is it true, makes sense. Is it helpful, makes sense. Now you get to inspiring and you're like, wait, why do I care if something's inspiring or not? Based on the way it's written, a news article may be inspiring you to believe something, to act on something, to attend something, to view something. Is it doing that? Is it doing that in a good way or a bad way? Is it something you want to be inspired to do? To me, in this think method, the most important parts are, is it helpful? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I don't really want, understanding if it's true, we're going to keep going on understanding kind of truth. But that's interpretive, just as much as the word fact has become interpretive in our society today. So understanding if it's necessary, because then I can just eliminate this from my thought pattern altogether. Am I looking at something that's not necessary to my life? Am I looking at a shark swimming in the water? Do I really need to look at Is it kind? So a lot of times, fake news is driven by negativity. It's driven to kind of bring some kind of dissonance to the conversation that's, contrary. Not always, but if you're looking at something and saying, is it kind, it's more likely to be honest. It's not always the case, but in general, there's less fake kind stuff put out than fake negative stuff put out. So these are just different methods, but really, if you take the time to create a personal verification routine in your mind, that's where you want to be. So I'm presented with some piece of information, and this is another story that happened to me recently. I have a health condition, and it's not well known. It's very difficult. There's no known cure, no known cause, kind of stuff. So there's a lot of misinformation about it. And I'm in many different Facebook groups supporting our condition, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not always happy to be a part of those groups, but someone posted recently that because our condition causes skin areas that are boil-like, that she just had a picture of a Google search for MSG that says MSG can cause boils. And it showed the results that looked like a search result. Well, I happen to know a little bit about MSG, not a whole lot, but I had never heard anything about it causing skin boils. So I decided to try this for myself. So this was I paused, I looked at it, I paused, I said, wait a second. And then I went and I did the same search with Google myself to see if those results came up with the search, and they did not. I got completely different results. So then I tried on a different search engine, and I also tried in social media to see if I could reproduce those results, and I could not. So I asked the person if they had actually clicked on any of the links to show the actual source for those search results. Because what's changed very recently in your Google search results are that Gemini AI answer is coming up. And it will tell you where its sources are from. Well, the woman had just gotten the picture. She hadn't actually done the search. So it was just a completely falsified image. Now, when I think about that, I felt that it wasn't true right off the bat. She thought she was being helpful in telling our group that MSG could cause this. But because it wasn't true, it was no longer helpful. It could have inspired people to give up MSG. Would that have hurt their lives? Maybe not. I think maybe things wouldn't have tasted quite the same. But it would have inspired them to make some kind of change to their lives, possibly. They would have felt maybe it was necessary because, dealing with this condition is no fun. Everybody wants to get rid of it. The woman sure thought she was being kind by sharing it. She thought she was going to help people, right? But at the end of the day, after we did our pause and our 3-source verification, because I was asking the critical question of, well, where is the scientific report behind this? And finding a trusted fact-checking website, which I have many links for you here in the last page of your handout, and we'll go over some of those. But you should have more than one fact-checking website, because eliminating bias in all of the fact-checking is nearly impossible. You're going to have some kind of bias. We're all born in a certain lifestyle. We're raised a certain way, whether we're in the United States or other countries, whether we're male or female, what race we are, what religion, all of these things are building our bias, whether we know it or not. So how can we start to look into, are these News. And we'll go through what I've provided you in the handout. The first information is from me, but these next pages, the very colorful, jazzy pages in here, are from my friends at the Cybersecurity, Information, and Security Administration, who I get the joy of volunteering with weekly. We're working on projects to enhance our software supply chain security through transparency. I do things like write fun white papers with them. I know that sounds thrilling to everybody to spend my time writing white papers. But what you can do is start with the URL. So we'll take it from the top to the bottom. Sometimes a URL might look like an official URL. Maybe it says abcnews.com.co. Well, now it's not ABC News anymore, is it? It's got an extra extension on the end of it. Or maybe they put something like, see, www.the.honesttruth.com. So maybe they would put www.theabcnews.com. But that's not the real abcnews.com. Now, many web developers know that making close URLs to mock your URL is a common practice. So a lot of us, like myself, buy up similar domains in order to try to protect our viewers or our own intellectual property, depending on what our desires are. But, you know, these bad actors, they're always trying to come up with a way. And a lot of people, like, just a little typo, ABC News where they forgot the W, or, you know, any little thing like that, Amazon with 2 O's because you accidentally double type things. Bad actors will pick up those URLs just hoping that they can catch you. And it's not hard to make their site look legitimate. So then as you're looking at the body, does it look right? Now when you look at a website, and some are clunkier than others, as you know, if you browse the web at all, you know this, but if you're catching a lot of spelling mistakes, broken pictures or images, text that doesn't quite work out, or there's like way too much punctuation all of a sudden, you know, you want to look and see, like, does this look like a really real website? Really real? It'll also, it should, if it's a good article, it should have supporting sources. And those can be your 3 verification sources. You want to look at things like the author and the date. Now, what I find a lot online is people taking articles or clips and relating them to current things. They were actually from years ago. Like there was a very common viral image from the January 6th incident that was left-leaning, that showed, you know, all these people and they had access and they got in and it was like circling out people. The picture was actually from Colorado from 4 years prior. It had nothing to do with the January 6th incident, but they were spreading this around. And, you know, just like anything, when you're passionate about something and you feel like you have something to, like, oh yeah, this totally proves everything that I've been saying, you just spread that around. So it's important to stay out of our own heads in that sense too. So looking at, you know, who wrote it, the date they wrote it, and, you know, reading past the headlines of it and really getting to the meat of the article, because sometimes you'll find it's just headlines. It's not really a story. I'm seeing a lot of this right now with, I don't know how many of you are fans of Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and know anything about their situation that's going on right now. There has to be a Board Panda article coming out every 5 minutes about this silly little spat, you know, they're going to court over, but it'll be almost the exact text from the last article I wrote, only with a different paragraph at the beginning, leaning it in a different direction. So, some of them are in Justin Baldoni's favor, some of them are in Blake Lively's favor, but they both have the same story. They're just trying to tantalize the other side to read the article based on the headline in the first paragraph. So dig in, and we will find out how we spot suspicious content. I'm going to go through the information we have in our packet a little bit here as well. So here, I talk about understanding the source, that URL, that where it's coming from. If this is like a video that you're seeing on TikTok, that might be harder to find the source of. But with some of the tools we've provided, if you have that URL, you can go to things like the Google, the link to the Google Safe Browsing report, and you can put that URL in, and it'll give you a report if that URL has come up in any searches or not, has been reported as being a malicious site. And you can do that with any URL. There's also a website called Know Your Meme. And that is one of the links in there. Know Your Meme is actually, and I'm going to dip us out of the presentation so we can look at these a little bit. Their tools have been upgraded. They can generate images instead of having to learn how to use Photoshop and manipulate things. Writing has become so much easier, like, oh, okay, I can have something generate 4 different headlines for me, and I can see which one I like best. Instead of having to do a lot of work, they're able to do things very simply now. So Know Your Meme is kind of a cool site. Hopefully you can see it a little bit on here. But it'll show you like what popular memes are trending or images are trending. And it'll give you information on them. And in this case, it's also giving you information on some different articles that are becoming worthy, like the new Trump meme coin. Can't honestly say would be a good investment. I have not been happy with any of my crypto investment, if that makes you feel better. But it does give you, it kind of shows you what's going on with the meme, but then it also tells you, it gives you an article about it, it shows you what other people are posting about it, so that you can kind of be a little more savvy than the average internet user. Sorry, the site is slow to load here. There's a lot of video on this site, so it's just not, it's not liking that as much. Let me close that one out. But if you get an internet, if you get a picture that you want to confirm, is this picture legitimate or not? You can actually search the image on Google. When you click this little button here, next to the microphone on Google Images, you can drag an image or choose an image from your drive to upload. I was going to pick one of those memes. We'll take a look at our hurricane shark again as an example. I apologize if things are a little slow here. Just depends on how sophisticated you are with the tooling. But if you use this search, what you'll be able to do is to see if that image was used in another way, if a similar one is out there.
So either way, whether it's been reposted or people passing through, you see or someone that something, put it in another story,
Yeah. Yeah, that's why that hurricane shark one is a good example. Because it shows you. Sorry, I'm going to have to give it. It just doesn't like running the presentation at the same time, I don't think. When you do the that's right. Always have a workaround. If you have an Android phone, many of us just have the Google search right away on the phone, and you hit this little button, and even just take a picture of something to see if it's true or not. Well, that is. You know, it's funny because I was using the internet before there was a Google, very briefly. And I tell you, I miss things like Alta Vista. I miss things that were just pure links. Like there was a trust to that. That it was a little more, real. And now the this presentation is
be a trust at the same time.
It was a whole different story. Oh, why it won't let me restart from where I was. Silly version of PowerPoint. So we were talking about suspicious content, and that you can actually, when you do that image search, what you're looking for is, well, if it doesn't come up at all, and someone sent you that image, it wasn't posted around the internet, or it would have come up. So that's a first indicator that either this was specifically made for me, or if someone's saying that it's real and they sent it to you only, that it might actually be real. Now, the other option would be that it's made specifically for you and it's not real. So then you'd have to go back to the context with which you received the image, rather than just searching for it to see if that image has been used in other situations. I could not find a way to search this for videos, other than you can use that Google trust URL and put in the URL of the video and see if other people have reported it. But there's not a search where you can upload a video and say, is this video false or not? We're also about to lose any additional fact checking on Facebook. So I'll tell you, I don't think it was that great to begin with. Because, like I said, I got that Celine Dion post through Facebook. Now, if you go back, now it has been taken down. But it had already been spread virally before that. So, do I think it's going to make a difference? No. I think that we still were getting the same amount of misinformation we would have got without those fact checkers. Do I think they were really taking a lot of misinformation off of the internet? No, I honestly don't. I think it was being rerouted. I think people were learning how to get around those things. And that was more what we were seeing. So what our friends at CISA have provided you here is really cool. I mean, they love making this content. Highly recommend checking out their website for many reasons. But what they're walking you through here is how you stop misinformation. And one of the things that people ask me all the time is, well, like, why are people spreading information? Who is spreading it? So here they're telling you that it's often foreign states, bad actors, scammers, if they're looking to get something from you, extremist groups, but it could also be just internet jokesters. There are people out there, they don't really mention that here because they're not as worried about it, but there are people that are just out there to see how many people they could trick. It's a sport for them. Hacking, phishing, all these different kinds of malicious acts online, a lot of them started because they were just fun. I mean, I was on the internet when it was young, and yes, it was fun to go and disrupt a chat room of people sharing quilting patterns when I was 15. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But now the next page is about recognizing risk. And what the risks here that they're trying to identify is that, these bad actors are trying to do things in general. They're trying to divide us or sway us in one direction or another. The more of a following they build, the more they can do that. So they're looking to build a following so that things can go viral. If they don't have anybody following them, if they don't have anybody sharing their information, they fail. They don't get it out there. And once they can do that, once they can amplify it and make it breaking news, now it's in the general population. And getting that reversed can be extremely difficult. So question the source, they talk about here too, and they give you, pretty graphics to go with it too. And the one thing we haven't really talked about is checking the sources. That's kind of difficult in some cases, but there's some services that I've given you links here for to help you with that. The first one is newslit.org. And that is a group that's trying to help teach people how to understand misinformation on the internet. And they also have like a weekly newsletter that you can sign up for. And it'll send you like what the top articles that week are that may have been misinformation. They'll keep you updated on what's trending in the world of misinformation. And they have some nice online tools to help you with identifying things as well. The other two links on this page that are important for this are the ones that say facts behind viral news. And that Fact Crescendo and Media Bias Fact Check, both sites, I would love to dip out of this presentation and show you them again, but we won't be able to get back in the presentation. So they will show you the articles and whether or not they're leaning in one direction or the other based on the bias detected. They'll be able to tell you the true source of different articles. And they are also something that you can sign up for on a regular basis, that you can get emails from them and get your news from their sources that are verified instead. But that's why there are, 1, 2, 3 of those? so you have multiple sources. But in general, what do you want to watch out for? Manipulation, trying to get us to feel a certain way. Things that are too good to be true, we know we need to avoid those. Any kind of urgency, or like, this is happening right now, something that's trying to grab your attention, you want to be suspicious. And that poor grammar and spelling, okay, it could just be that some of us have trouble with grammar and spelling, it could. But in general, and then the suspicious web addresses. So what am I saying in general? One of our fun sayings here is put it on peninsula time, you know? Like, oh, we'll get to it when we get to it. It's peninsula. So, you know, like, when it comes to trusting your online content, know that you need to just put it on peninsula time. Slow down with it. I know people like to like immediately share things as soon as like, oh, this is super important, but maybe sit on it for a day. Let it marinate with you. Unless, you know, because if it is that urgent, shouldn't you call somebody and tell them there's a fire in your neighborhood? You know, what is it that is so urgent that you're going to share? Is it really urgent that you share that, you know, Blake Lively may or may not have let this guy in her dressing room? Like, no, it's not important. Wait, let it go. It might not be true. So this is also kind of a good time. We'll take a little break if anybody needs to use the restroom.
This article is this according to our family duty.
Well, I mean, and that's not necessarily a bad way to source that. By crowdsourcing, it leads to the website, right? Because all the people going to that website might already have a bias because they're right.
It's no good. Yeah. I mean, it can, is there any limit on doubt you can have? Is there nothing that you can do that you can say this? What can you trust? I had a feed that I was enjoying for a while, and then it came up and said that this feed was started by this person, extremely radical, some other kinds of country, and I said, wait a minute, now those guys are unlikely to give an unbiased neutral report. However, it's fascinating because they have information that isn't in mainstream here. You know, so it's seductive.
Aw. No, it really is that difficult nowadays. That's why I'm here. It's because there were probably 3 people just in my neighborhood that had some sort of challenge with understanding. Like, they forwarded me something, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like, that's not right to do. My confidence on was paid for service. He thought you were particularly interested. Didn't say she lived in London. And I'm like, that has well yeah, and said. And so she goes, you know, okay, things take a little long yet, you know, before you can this and love it. Yeah. Maybe. So this is the bias fact check website. Just to give you results that you says things. I don't share a lot of articles. I want to share now post. I mean, occasionally I want people to repost like the Techie Tuesday, right? That would be great. I'd like them to repost and stuff like that. I'd like them to repost that, but that feels like there's a purpose behind it. They enjoyed it, so they want to share what they enjoy. I work with an artist on the peninsula, and I want people to repost his artwork and his workshops, and talk about what they like about his art and things like that. But when I think about celebrity gossip and news and the latest miracle cure, yeah, what is the motivator behind really wanting to spread that around to your friends and family if you're not the bad actor? So I was thinking about the woman that shared the Celine Dion post with me. It was She felt just like, oh, this is awful to see, and I want to tell everybody how much I care about Celine Dion. But really, I don't know. So yeah, that's something that I think is the psychology of sharing would be an interesting study. What really motivates people to share? And unfortunately, if it is just, I want to share everything, those are the people that are spreading the misinformation. If it is, I want to spread something to cause something malicious, there's their purpose. But yeah, beyond that, it's something that I often think about. Why did that person really want to share that? Why do I want to share that? I think that's one of the comments on here.
But then I have really been regarding the one book. I can usually just go innocent. Good.
The less you share, the less you're putting anybody at risk.
Sharing no longer is caring.
Aw, I was waiting for that to come up because I was not the girl in kindergarten that was sharing very much. I had to grow into that, and I don't want people to grow out of it. So, we talked about DIY fact checking, just to go over it real quick. Basic review of the URL. Does it look right? And then, some interesting things. Most sites will have like an about page or information, or look at the bottom. See, is there a footer at the bottom that has terms and conditions? Is there a privacy policy? Because to me, that's one of the first red flags that this is not a legitimate website. First of all, if there's not a consistent header and footer, funky. But, there should be some kind of real information, at least a real verifiable email address, some way that makes that site look better. There's also looking for this HTTPS in the URL. So what I'll tell you about this is that, yes, it does mean that the site is more safe. It has a certificate. Anybody can get one of these certificates. It's not difficult to do. You don't have to you don't have to present your ID or anything like that to get a certificate. So, yes, it is helpful. No, it is not a stamp of approval. But certainly, I should say, before I go into this, if you're ever doing shopping, banking, entering personal information, or, even if you don't consider it personal information, just entering your email address, if you're filling out a form of any kind, make sure the site has the secure certificate. You do not want to be entering information on a site that doesn't have a secure certificate, because then that information isn't transferred with any kind of protection at all. We talked about the reverse image search. We didn't actually get to do it in person, but you can try this with any image, see what your results are. What you're looking for is this image posted over and over again for the same thing, or is it posted for different things? What was the date the images were posted for? Is this like an old image that somebody's reposting? Is it an image that was related with something else? When you look at those results, you'll see oh, well, this isn't an image of the Capitol building, it's an image of a building in Europe or somewhere else. Different things like that. Let's talk about some common scams. So we're going to shift a little bit from misinformation and talk about general online scams. And I've got some great links in here that I'll talk about first. If you run into any of these scams as you go along, the FTC has a great site where you can submit the URL of the site that you believe was scamming you. And you can put in any information about that scam. You can do this with social media posts, phone calls, if you're getting scammer phone calls. The FTC, as it is right now, has some great resources for you to submit things. I unfortunately cannot say that the FTC will stay the same under the new administration. We do know that there will be some changes there. Identity theft reporting, there's a site specifically for that. We talked a little bit about the Google Safe Browsing reports, because that's for URLs. The Whois lookup is one other way that you can verify websites. A lot of them will not necessarily have a person's name anymore in a Whois. It used to be very common that everybody was registering their own domains. When you looked at Whois, it would be like, oh, Lynn Westfall, she owns the modemlisa.com. Actually, you will find that for mine, because I don't make mine private. But a lot of people can make their Whois registrations private, but what you'll see is who it was registered with, like GoDaddy or another registrar. So you will be able to see the country it was registered in, even if you can't see the entity that it was registered to, because they made it private. If they made it private, they paid extra for it too. So it's less likely that it's a false URL if it's made private. But you want to kind of pay attention to that Whois data. If it looks completely false, or if for some reason it doesn't come up in the Whois record, which is very rare, but is an instant red flag that something is wrong with that website. And then I also have the link here for how you report content on Facebook. There's a couple different ways, though, because you can do it directly from the post that you're looking at. You can report the profile that you're looking at, the post, or the account, depending on where you're at. So, what are some of the most common scams? Well, how about a technical support scam? How about a pop-up that says your computer has found, we found 5,000 viruses on your computer. Click here to get rid of them, or call us. So I had a neighbor just in the last 2 months that had one of these pop-ups come up on her computer. She called the number, and they started talking her through, okay, well, we can get into your computer, but you're going to have to give us this information. And she, because she had been to my class, as soon as they asked her for a certain piece of information, she was like, no, and immediately hung up. I wish she hadn't made the call, because she missed the class where I talked about this before. But at least it registered with her once she was on that call what she needed to pay attention to. So none of your computers, unless you're paying for an additional service, like if you have a Dell, you can pay for Dell's warranty and technical support service. They're not going to call you. They're not going to pop something up on your screen. They might pop something up on your screen that says you have virus, but it won't say call us here. It'll say, go through your support process. And you should know what that official support process is once you pay for it. Understand, how do I get my support? What are the ways you can contact me? Can you access my computer without me asking? Some of the services can do that, but you want to make sure that you know that first. And it requires additional software to be installed on your computer. Usually your computer doesn't come with remote access readily available. There's either, Dell's will come with a pre-installed application that will allow it, but there's a code that you have to read to the person that you're getting. You never want to click on a link in one of those pop-ups. Doesn't matter what it is, never ever click on it. No matter how legitimate it looks, it is probably wrong. Most of the time, if there's something going on with your computer, you kind of know. You're like, my computer's not working right. It's not going to just all of a sudden tell you I'm not working right. If there's something that's regularly popping up on your computer, though, I don't have them in music. I have extras of either here, a Mac or a Windows user. If you're a Windows user, press Control Alt and Delete, and a menu will come up allowing you to close that browser program. So it keeps popping up, and you can't stop it. You can't hit the X's. If you hit Control Alt Delete, you'll either be able to shut down those windows or restart your computer from there. What's that? It is. On a Mac, the same option is Command Option Escape, and it does similar to what you get with the Windows Task Manager. Then what you can do is boot into safe mode on your computer, and your Windows computer or your Mac will also have these options. And in that safe mode, you can start to try to use your browser again and see if it's functioning properly. Or if it's not, you can uninstall and reinstall it. You can do things like delete a file that might be causing those pop-ups. It's a little more sophisticated if something is actually installed on your machine and you have to get it off at this point, but you might be able to do that from safe mode if you can figure out where the application has been installed on your computer. It's getting a little deeper in there. You can also run different diagnostic tests when you're in safe mode, and it doesn't have to be disconnected from the internet. There is safe mode with internet connection, or there's safe mode where you don't have that internet connection, in which case, if you boot into safe mode with network connection and you're still unable to access what you need to because of whatever was popping up, then you want to try it without the network connection set up to it. You could also just pull the plug out of your computer, turn off your Wi-Fi router. I know, tragic. It's that time of year again where we're going to see a lot of IRS scams. Tax scam time, that's right. Because everybody's expecting to get W-2s. Everybody's expecting to get different forms from your bank. Depending on what you have going on in your life, you're going to get a number of different tax-related pieces of information. Some of it might be physical mail, some of it might be email. The IRS is not going to call you. The IRS is not going to send you a text message, and they're certainly not going to send you an email. A certified letter, if anything you're going to get from the IRS is going to be a certified letter. You're going to know that it comes from the IRS. If you're in some kind of tax trouble, you probably know it. So it's not like all of a sudden I got a text message saying that I owe $10,000 in back taxes and they're going to start putting a lien on my wages if I don't click on this link immediately. I paid my taxes last year. Why would? But it's that creating that urgency, trying to pull on your heartstring. They think they can put that sense of fear in you. And even with the new administration, I think we're going to see things like, this is a message from the new IRS, trying to get people, to believe that Trump has created some kind of new IRS department because he has created this new external revenue department. So, there could be a new IRS. Did he shut down the IRS? People are going to be questioning these kind of things, and these kind of scams are going to be very prevalent. So I think for the next couple months, anything like this is probably going to be fake. We're going to be seeing a lot of action here. Phishing. Not phishing like we have on the peninsula, but phishing with a PH is when malicious actors are trying to get a piece of information. They're usually casting a wide net. That's why it's called phishing, so that they can get somebody to respond. Going back to my youth days, I did some of this on AOL. What you would do is you would send out a blast of instant messages to just random profiles. This is AOL technical support. We've detected an issue with your account, and we need you to provide us your password immediately, or your account will be disabled. You would not believe the amount of passwords that I got back instantly. And then all I had to do was log in and change their password to my password that I wanted, and now I did lose access to my account, like that person said I would. So it's become a lot more sophisticated. People impersonating accounts is probably the biggest phishing method used now on social media. They'll create an account, looks just like your best friend. And all of a sudden you've got a new friend request from your best friend that you've had on your friends list for a long time. You don't know why. Maybe it doesn't have a picture though. It just has the icon of the account symbol. So never accept those. If you're pretty confident that you were somebody's friend on Facebook, look to see if you're still their friend and this is a duplicated profile. Look to see how many other friends the profile has. Look to see how old the profile is. If you get a message from one of these profiles and it doesn't sound like your friend, let your friend know that their account is in trouble. I like to tell people as soon as I see them come up in like your potential, you might know this person, and then I see like, oh, there's a new duplicated account for my best friend, okay. So I go tell them to warn their close friends and family, because as much as you can report those accounts, they don't take them down very fast. So it could get spread, something could happen. As soon as you see those things, report, notify, spread the word. But
we're getting so sophisticated. I received one recently, belonging to Steve.
yeah,
And it had your logo, it had the address that looked correct at the bottom of the gold, you stuck it there, and then it was well written and everything else that was talking about that something was needed to take care of this family notice that you've done this and you need to pay it back. enormous, ripple. But I mean, it is so genuinely, for a sec, it looks like if you were putting next to a regular notice from the BBC, get the fuck yourself. Until the action. And of course, it didn't do it. I just need the job, the BBC, and the BBC, and all that. You know, did all the stuff they had. It's not, but you have to be aware of it.
Yeah. In that case, was it an email?
Yeah.
You might have been able to tell from the email address if you right-click on it, because it'll show you, it'll probably look like BCEU, but if you right-click on it, you can see what the actual address is. And it will, it probably wasn't going to end in BCEU.gov or whatever they were.
I work for, in like the vulnerability people, I work for a very well-known company, and one of the things that we wanted to do is move people home and install a key locker program on their laptops. And we told the people what it would do, and it was 100% key locker, overthrow. And they just wisely signed and said, sure, you can have it. And we would go out and we would say, another one, how'd you go?
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah. That would have I can't imagine a company that I would agree to running a keylogger on my computer. That is just beyond me.
We felt for you.
I mean, I've helped some parents do it on their kids, but other than that, or, like a spouse situation, wink, wink. I actually didn't do it on my ex-husband, but I had a boyfriend that was living with me for a little bit, and I just wanted to see what he was talking about online while I was at work, and unfortunately I found out it was cheating. But if I hadn't run a keylogger, I wouldn't have found out. So, I don't know. But yeah, you definitely don't want to give somebody that kind of permission. That's crazy. So personal scams, like obviously if someone has hijacked or mimicked your friend, they might be able to get your phone number or other information if your friend's account has been accessed. So they might not always come at you from social media, they might come at you from an email or from a phone call if your friend's account had that information and they were able to get access to it. Specifically, this is like your Google contacts or your iPhone contacts. When your friends get those hacked and that person has all of that information, it may even include your address. I have some of my friends' addresses in here. But in general, I just try to store a name, email, phone, and then keep anything else, separate from my actual contacts list if I really need it. And instead of
I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, if you computer your phone or your contact list, what file can you put it in?
you can put a spreadsheet instead.
And just put a password on it or something?
Well, if it's on your local machine and not stored in the cloud, that spreadsheet is probably pretty safe. It depends on your system, how vulnerable your system is. If you're storing it in the cloud, it's not as safe. Different things like that. Your phone and your browser on your computer are your two most attacked areas. So you want to limit whatever is stored directly in or accessible by a browser or your mobile device. So as convenient and wonderful as it is to have all of your contact information stored there, and not all of us ever run into a risk. So for some of us, it's never a problem. But if you're, looking to be extra safe, it's just an added way to do it. But personal scams are more like now with the AI technology that they have your phone number, they have your friend's information. Now they can mimic your friend's voice, and they can call you and say, help, I'm in jail and I need to be bailed out. Can you wire me some money? Can you PayPal it to me? WhatsApp? Can you send it over Venmo? Is there some other way? And not all of those services are dangerous, but when the bad actors are using them, there's still a method for them to get your money. Especially if your friend starts asking you for gift cards or Bitcoin,
Yeah.
please hang up immediately. Do not try it. That's one of the areas where I don't even understand how people fall for those scams, because there's no way that my niece is going to call me up and I'm desperate for something. Can you send me some iTunes gift cards? No. No. But they can get all that personal info from you if someone that you know has been attacked. So you want to keep in mind, and one of the things that I taught in this class last year, something you can do with your friends and family when you're in person, create a safe word. Don't do this over the phone, don't do it over a text, don't do it over an email. Do it when you're face to face and say, if anything ever happens, just ask me what our safe word is. If you say bananas, I'm going to know that it's really you.
Don't make it help.
Yeah, don't make it help. That would not work. But that's one method that you could instill. And okay, we all got together for Christmas. Every Christmas, we all chat and we decide on a new safe word for the year. And then all my friends and family, we all know this. It's all common with us. Could one of them spill it to a bad actor? Probably not. I mean, that's kind of a hard one to spill, unless somehow, and this is like a more direct attack. Let's say someone actually wanted to attack you, and you had mentioned offhand in some kind of setting that, my family all has a safe word. So then they could go after all of your friends and family and fish around to see who will give them that safe word. Like, oh, I forgot what our safe word is. Yeah, no, don't. Not until you're face to face in person that you know what's really them. Oh, hold on. You're not supposed to, He's allowed. So, yeah, go ahead. No.
You haven't mentioned yet, that's what I was beginning to, but it seems around here, so many of the devices are monitored out of like that. And we all heard the story about, I talked to a friend about buying a new car yesterday, and today I get asked for a new car. So, how does that play into safe words, protections,
So,
it's off,
no, I think that's a good question, because not everyone is thinking that their device might be monitoring them at all times.
your next device.
Right.
And I've heard how many people I talked to that said, we were talking on the phone, or the phone was in the room, and, the first 3 or 4 people I said, nuts.
No, it's 100% real, that especially Amazon devices are really, let's say, tuned on that.
How do we think this would happen?
Well, the question would be more, what are you trying to get protection from? What they're listening for is ways to get you to buy. They're not necessarily storing all of that data, because the storage would be insane. They're sorting through it, picking out what's important, what they want, and then they're moving on and getting rid of it. But just like with using social media at all, if you use it at all, there's a level of risk. If you use a Nest device or an Echo, there's that level of risk. So you just have to understand and expect it. There's no way around it anymore. There's no way to turn it off and stop and still get the benefit of the service. And people ask me this all the time. They're like, shouldn't I be able to have access to Facebook without all my information being stolen? They're providing you a service. When you agree to those terms and conditions, which I really encourage people to read, though they never will, it was my job at my last company to make sure that our company adhered to all terms of service. So I've read those iTunes update notices. I've read what's in it. It used to be a lot more fun. Software licensing, they used to slip in some funny stuff every once in a while. There were even prizes sometimes when people could find things in software licenses because they wanted you to read them so bad because no one was reading them. We don't see that anymore. But yeah. So there's another reason why making sure websites have terms and conditions is important too. Because if, let's say, you think a website is trustworthy, it doesn't have terms and conditions, and then some piece of your identity is stolen, or some kind of information that you know you put into this website has been hijacked, you don't have their terms and conditions to go back on and say, you said you would protect me from this. Those privacy policies work both ways. They're supposed to protect your data by, they're giving you access to this platform, and they're agreeing to protect your data in these certain cases. Now, they're not going to give you any money. Almost all of them limit their liability to nothing. But what you want to watch out for, though, is that some of them will limit their liability to nothing, but you're liable if what you do causes them harm. So there's another fun, a couple of these links that I've provided actually have browser extensions. The two that say facts behind viral news, both of those have, oh, now I'm going to be hungry. Both of those have browser extensions that you can install, and as you're browsing the web, they will actually tell you the bias, the good, the bad, that kind of stuff. One of the other browser extensions that I recommend for people is, I think it's just called Terms of Use. But what it does is you install it on your browser, and every time you go to a website, it'll show you red, green, or blue, or red, yellow, or green if the terms of the site are good, okay, or bad. You can guess what it says about Facebook. It's red about Facebook. It's red about several things. But it'll tell you why those terms and conditions are unfair or biased in some way. I think it's just called it's a browser plugin. I think it's just called Terms of Use. In fact, we'll have time. I'll show that. But when it comes back to those devices, just got to try your best to avoid anything sensitive around them. Cover up the echo's ears. Shh. I think this might be our last type of scam, which is the dating scams. I'm sure there's a lot of us out there looking for love that, would like to be in a relationship, but these scammers are some of the most sophisticated because there's the biggest payout on some of them. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a woman on this very peninsula that has given $250,000 to someone and still believes that they are really going to have a relationship with this person. They're almost 2 years into this process. I know, right? Unfortunately, none of us can convince this person to let it go. But that's what happens when we're so deeply entrenched in these situations, and they know what affects us. The psychology of the bad actors is completely different than our psychology, and they know how to play on us. So just be very cautious. and never be desperate. So hopefully this video will work. I made this about a year ago about a scam that tried to get me. Her name was Mavis. She said if I was her friend, she'd give me some money. Someone that I knew and trusted already followed her, and so did 4,800 other people. So we chatted for 2 whole weeks, going back and forth between replies. I told her how much help I needed and how I was struggling. She kept saying she was honest. She asked how much debt I had, even totals, and then asked for my PayPal email, but when I gave her the PayPal me link instead, she didn't like that. After I refused to confirm my email, she claimed she had sent the money. But there was nothing in my PayPal, so I sent it back to her. Then she sent an image link and asked me to give her $150 to secure the funding. Of course, you never click on the image. For a laugh, I asked her why she was doing it. She said she was honest, but I had to go report her and then block her on Instagram, as you all should. But surprise, there are more Mavis accounts than you can count. I reported all that I could find to Instagram, but they only removed the one that I had followed. This must be part of their policy, which means you have to protect yourself by being mindful and not being desperate and clicking on something that isn't right. Instagram needs to step up and do more. You let me know if you agree in the comments below. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, that was fun. Actually, there's probably still dozens of Miss Mavis accounts out there because they do have policies on what they'll block after you report it. And if you weren't actually following them, in a lot of cases, they won't take your report and get rid of their account. This seems kind of, to me, like the tech companies want these scammers to at least spin up the accounts, even if they have to take them down. It's like they're playing a numbers game, because there's no reason why they couldn't just blanket say no one can ever make another account with this woman's name in it. She has one, they know what one account is hers, and they know that she's not sharing her lottery winnings with anybody, and she's a legitimate person. So they could just make it so that that name combination can never have an account again. But they refuse to do that. There's so many scams. What I see a lot on the peninsula, fake jobs. I have another video that I don't know, posted on my YouTube channel. It might be out there. There's a platform called Upwork for independent contract work, web design, graphic design, writing, voiceovers. It's kind of a cool platform. It's a little hokey, but it does have some good people you can hire out there. But there's also a lot of scamming that goes on Upwork. And this one offer said, okay, well, we need to have an interview, and it has to be through Skype. I'm like, okay. Upwork actually has a policy that you will not meet outside of the Upwork platform, and you will not contact each other outside of the Upwork platform. So when this person sent me an external email with an external Skype meeting invite, I decided to follow along and just see if it was a scam or not. And would you believe the scammer didn't come on the Skype call? He said, oh, we won't be using video. I'm like, oh, we won't be continuing this call then. All he wanted to do was chat with me on Skype and try to convince me to give him money. So even though Upwork was a great site, it looked like a real job, it looked like a legitimate opportunity, completely fake. vacation rental scams. This works in a couple different ways. You may not know it, but your house may be listed on Airbnb right now. People post fake vacation rentals. We just had one that someone talked about on the peninsula, where they posted, "My house is not for sale. My house is not for rent." But all they have to do is go on Zillow or these other platforms, get some pictures of your place. If you haven't already and you bought your house in the last 10 years, you can go to Zillow and ask that it's pulled. Otherwise, pictures from your last sale may still be up. They don't have any encouragement to take them down if you don't ask. You can also make sure that your realtor didn't leave a video of your house on their YouTube channel or website, like a realtor did 8 years before I bought my house. It was nice because I got to look at it, but I don't want people to look at it now. Pharmaceuticals. So not just, this is the miracle cure, but do you want cheap this or that? There's all of these pharmaceutical scams out there trying to get people to click on it. And when you're really sick and you really can't afford things, you start to get in that desperate mode, you might think about it. I see this a lot right now because I'm not having a great time financially with debt collection and payoff scams. Like, do you want to consolidate all your debt? Do you want to? Credit card companies don't want you to know about this way to pay off all of your debt. There's so many of these. Video after video on TikTok. Charity and donation requests. Right now, with the LA fires, be very skeptical of what you are donating to. Make sure it's, even if it says it's like the Red Cross, make sure you're actually going to the Red Cross's website and not clicking on a link in an ad. If there's a friend that you know that is like specifically doing something, like sometimes the Red Cross or like I work with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, they would create like a unique address for your campaign. So some of them might have their own unique campaign addresses, but the core URL should still be redcross.org/blah, blah, 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 blah. It shouldn't actually be in the first part of that address. That is different. And luckily, we're finally out of an election cycle, but we did see a lot of election contribution scams. And of course, there's new threats constantly coming up. So what do? We have to report and block. This is the FTC site that I was telling you about for reporting fraud. And you can see, this is what it has you kind of start with. What kind of scam are you trying to report here? And they've kind of covered a lot of different categories, and then they have the something else category if you don't feel like yours falls into any of these. But it's important that you're reporting things in as many places as possible. When you're on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, YouTube, any of them, they all have ways to report. So I'll show you quickly within Facebook, because this is kind of the most common platform on the peninsula at least. If you suspect something is fake, from the 3 dots in the upper corner, you can choose at the bottom here to report, then you can block them. And that's just based on this post. Now let's say I wanted to report an account. I have to actually look at their account, but then the same 3-dot menu here will let me report their page, if it's a page, or an account, if it's an account. Well, the report, so let's say we want to report. It asks you what do you want to report, what about it, and then it goes to Facebook. And they decide what to do. Yeah, depends. I've had really good luck. Almost everything I've reported has been taken down, with the exception of those Mavises on Instagram, because I wouldn't follow them. I could have followed them and then reported them, and then they would have taken them down. But I didn't feel it necessary to take that extra step. I felt like Instagram should have just taken them down. With the FTC, they've gotten a lot more teeth in the past couple years about actually getting things out of the public if they're reported as fraud. So that link's in there as well, and the link for Facebook. And that is the main bulk of the content. But since we didn't get to do the image thing, I want to turn the presentation off and see if we can dig into more of that detecting fake news stuff and do some real world examples. Any questions before I do?
I know from myself and a lot of other friends, they will not be very concerned about security because they say, well, I don't have anything that can be stolen, or I don't worry about it, or I'm simple, or those sorts of things. Or let them, not afraid of this guy who's a good person. But when you were mentioning that you can get into your contact stuff so they can use what they can glean from your equipment and use it to manipulate someone else. So I wouldn't be organized. I would look at me. A friend of mine that has to be attacked with me. So even if we don't feel like we need to be we kind of do.
Yeah, it's an online community. If we think about it that way, or our devices are all communally connected in that sense. So it's kind of the more secure you can be, the more secure everyone around you will be. I'm trying to think of a real world way to, like some of us would live in a gated community in order to make sure that our house was extra safe. Whereas, so for some of us, we don't feel like we need to live in a gated community because we don't require that kind of security.
Yeah, I've got friends who do that. You walk up to the house and okay.
Really? Wow, that's great to hear. I feel like this is that kind of place too. But I have a lot of friends on the peninsula that don't feel that way. That feel like there are a lot of risks on the peninsula, both to their physical property and otherwise. That I haven't seen. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm blind to some of the problems, but I don't see a lot of um, vandalism or theft. I haven't seen any destruction in the time that I've been here.
I feel like there's not a lot of risk here, but I don't know like you take care of Russian what happened in the past. It's not safe now. That's why it's good. I left my garage door open overnight and it's never had a problem. But that's not the practice. That's not something you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
People ask me, 2 years ago I got up and checked my email. There are no emails, there's no trash. Everything that I don't need in trash. For a long time.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it's like everything was gone. And so I recorded, of course, it's put it up and see what's going on. I spent the next 4 hours talking to my friends and okay, you get it to me. It's not for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I still to this day they never found out how we got in. I never had any information. It's not something I really picked up. Obviously, at some point during the last night, I got something.
It actually could have been planted on your computer much earlier and then not triggered until a certain point.
So you have no I put on those advertisements, you know, if you run across with your mouse, you didn't mean to, but no, my fingers twitch now where they did before.
Well, like if they sent out a phishing email to a large group of people and you had clicked on the link in it not knowing, and nothing really happened when you clicked on it. Maybe you went to a website, maybe it didn't even work, or it didn't seem like it worked. It could have even been in an image or a PDF. Those are also ways that software can install on your computer. And then it's just whenever they felt like triggering it to actually perform its cycle. It's usually creating some kind of network connection, so they know that they have so many nodes out there that they can trigger, and then they'll decide when they launch it or not. Not all of them are designed to go right away when you execute them. And that's kind of part of their way of getting around that, because they might have gotten caught if they had done it in a tight amount of time. Spectrum should have been able to find the IP address that connected to your machine, though. That's a little disappointing to me. There should have been traffic, right? Because that data, unless they just felt like wiping your system, which doesn't make any sense, usually they want to take that data.
Well, they could have included everybody else, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, where everything disappeared. It's like when I talk to myself, look, all the emails again, all the address book and stuff. That's what it's like, it's the address book. Everything. It's just like you have a brand new starting again, you can type in all your stuff again.
Yeah.
I learned something, once. This is exactly something that their entire email history disappeared.
Yeah.
But I ran into one, it was awful, where I was going to do it on the phone. And everybody would, it was they would do it in the textbook. And what's your password, what's your this or that. And I would give them, well, that's not really that. I said, that's what it should be. And I stopped it.
Yeah.
And it was simply that when I gave it to the person who was going to establish it, it was key.
Ah.
And talk about impossible to get it fixed.
Yeah.
So they're human errors. They just want to do something. They're on the wrong address.
I had a data loss. I don't know if you were in the class where I talked about it, because of a power outage here. And sometimes, if your system isn't running properly and there's a power outage or a power surge, it
I
can.
like that. I like that better. So how do you go back?
Probably not the address book. I would think that was stored on their servers, which is odd to me. But yeah, that's an odd situation, but it is known. I've heard of other similar situations.
Another situation, when you're on your banking, but eventually, if they do a small amount of stuff, to verify that it's still valid, because they'll buy all the
Yep.
and then they cut it off, see it, and then you're not going to it goes images. You gotta, and who's going to peruse the statements that you did?
I'm sorry. I do check my bank account every day. I don't know why. There's no money in there. But I had online banking from the beginning of my banking experience, so I think that makes it different. I think that a lot of people in generations older than me would think like, oh man, I almost never need to go look at my bank account. What do I need to look at my bank account for? But you had a checkbook where you were keeping each of those line items. There was nothing just automatically pulling out of your account. I mean, my generation, there's things pulling out of our accounts all the time that we've completely forgotten that we've signed up for.
Yeah.
So much so that there are now services to disable all of the things that we signed up for that we forgot about. But yeah, Rocket Money isn't worth it. By the way, I don't think those advertisements are crazy. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a different mentality where I feel like even if I don't have any activity going on, I just want to check it every day and make sure that nothing has gone on that I didn't expect because it's accessible. But on the bad hand of that, I don't want to do that when I'm in public. I don't want to do that when I'm on anybody else's Wi-Fi. I don't want to do it where someone could possibly look over my shoulder or look at me while I'm typing. Even if it's from a distance, they might have a camera on me. You know, you want to pay attention to where. So like it'll be I'm at home in the morning, or I'm in the car in my driveway or somewhere I know there isn't wireless, things like that. Um, And you know, on the other side, the option is to opt out. Like, okay, so I don't use online banking because I don't feel like it's safe enough. So then there's not an account to get hacked into, and it's not a problem. But do we all? I mean, it's so convenient compared to the, you know, like I take pictures of checks now. I never walk into the bank. Like, who thought that could happen? Don't they need the paper check? That still kind of boggles my mind every once in a while. Didn't they need this piece of paper? No, they never needed the piece of paper, as it turned out. But I still have to go get more checks printed if I want to use them. Wow. Yeah. We were just going to go and look at that. It cracks me up that you're into those games.
He was all involved. I mean, that
Yeah.
taken off to kind of coordinate.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually got into computers because of a computer game, even though I'm not someone that's seriously into gaming. So this would have been 93. You know, my parents had just bought our first home computer. It's a Packard Bell corner computer, fancy pants. No. You think? I don't know. That one was it was a special little beast. Um, it had not only did it come with Windows 3, which was really exciting, but it still had DOS underneath, and it had IBM's own operating system called Navigator. So it had three. It looked like you were walking through a house. It was really weird. I mean, it was kind of cute. I didn't mind it, but the way the operating systems were intertwined was complex. And so I went to install a game that was a DOS based game. And after I installed it, everything seemed to be okay, except the computer would only boot into the game. The game had broken the bootloader because of the configuration, and I could not get it to run any of the other operating. It would only play the game. So, you know, 12-year-old me is like crying that I've just broken my parents' brand new computer. I called the support number on the back of the box, which was in Texas, And these sweet gentlemen, who I'm assuming were all in their 30s and 40s, are talking this 12-year-old girl through how to fix her registry, how to fix the code in DOS. Oh my gosh. So they were talking me through these things, probably got about an hour in, and they're like, you called us? We're going to call you back because you're on long distance. So this was also the days of paying for a long distance, and that call cost us like $150. But then for the rest of the 2 hours that it took them to fix my computer, they took care of me. But afterward, I was like, I can do anything with this computer. I can make it do this, and I can make it do that. So it was, yeah, it was eye opening, and it also, you know, sparked my interest in always knowing the alternatives. I don't think if I had had any kind of other situation that I would have wanted to learn every operating system that I could. So you know, we didn't have Macs around us at first. I had PCs around me first, but then as soon as I found out about Macs, oh, I want to learn all about Macs too. Oh, okay, now I need to learn Linux. Oh, okay, now, you know, it's just what's coming up next. And I don't think that a lot of people got that same experience, because if everything just worked fine on Windows, they were like, well, this is my life on Windows. Just like if everything works fine on my Mac, I don't know anything about Windows, da da da. Yeah, I was the only girl in my high school class that was really comfortable in both platforms, and that lasted for a long time. People were like, "No, I only do this." Or, "No, I only do Mac. I only do PC." And who does Linux? You got to be a real nerd if you're going to play in Unix or Linux, right? I don't want anything to do with it. So it was, you know, uh, once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. Browser extensions, which you see me hover over here in the very top corner over here. They are add-on software applications that run in your browser and perform different activities depending on what they are. Like you'll see I have a few extensions here already. The Pinterest extension, which will allow me to save different things that I'm looking at. Like if I hover over this picture again, usually it'll say save to Pinterest. There it is. So that is allowing me to do that. I have this extension here for my password manager, which I highly recommend everyone uses a password manager. There will be a class on that next month. No. It's an actual application. It just doesn't run on your operating system. It only runs within your browser. So it's not like loaded into your Windows or Mac. It's loaded in your browser. And so this is the Firefox extensions, but Chrome, Edge, and pretty much every browser has different ones. And it just depends on what you're looking to. So I talked about that terms and conditions when I want to find it. Mostly. There could be, so just like with anything, you do want to be skeptical about your extension. It could come from a malicious party. It might look like it's the official extension of Pinterest and actually be something else. Where I've seen this the most is with the new AI related ones. They will have it looks like the ChatGPT logo, but it's not really created by OpenAI. It's a mock of it, and that's just out there to steal your data. And that's really a false extension would be out to steal your data. But most of the extensions are purposeful. You're looking for an extension. I want the LastPass extension in my browser so that all of my passwords are automatically saved, automatically loaded, and accessible in my browser. I want to use the Pinterest extension so that I don't have to copy and paste links into my Pinterest account. You'll see, oh wow, this Rakuten one is really popular. But yeah, people want to earn cash back on things, so they install the Rakuten extension. What I'll say about that particular extension, it will slow your system down. Some extensions will slow your browsing down. It does give you, you can earn cash back. And I'll talk about this in the online shopping one. But it's collecting all your data, it's collecting everything that you're shopping, and that's kind of the trade that you're giving it. Is you're